That's 7:30. We're actually on time tonight. Hello, everybody. Welcome along to the Rangers Rabble phone-in. I hope you're all well, and it's good to be back. Although we did have that breaking news pod yesterday, but it's good to be back on the official podcast. The phone lines will be open soon. Our producer is sitting in the background, far too close to his camera, eagerly awaiting the phone calls to come in. Tonight, I am joined by, it's got to be said, it's the old guard. I do feel very, very young tonight on the podcast, but I'm joined by Wolf. Wolf, how are you?
Can you just give me a wee second, Martin? I'm just on my Duolingo learning my Belgian, so I'm very well.
Yeah. You've been there enough, you should be able to speak it fluently.
I've actually only been to Belgium a couple of times.
I don't believe that. Ian, how are you?
I'm all right. We've worked out that I wasted my time learning how to speak Flemish because that's not what Clement speaks. So, well, never mind.
What language does he speak? English? French? Oh, it's kind of closing the name on it. James, how are you?
I'm good, mate. Yourself?
Well, I'm very good apart from my lights stop working, so I look multicoloured. But yeah, I should actually ask you, James, before we get into the phone calls. Are you feeling a lot better now? Are you feeling more calm? Have you got your season ticket back?
Not yet, mate, but I will be texting Kerr later on this evening and arranging to meet him on Saturday, mate, for a triumphant return back to Ibrox.
You've got no chance of getting that season ticket back off of Kerr now, by the way. Especially since he paid £800 for it, which I thought was cheeky fee. But, however. Right, James, we have a new manager, Phillip Clement. He has agreed a deal to become the new Rangers manager. There's one or two things I want to get into, but firstly, just your reaction.
I don't know much about the guy, mate. I've also been reading up about him. Listened to the guy yesterday that was on Sky Sports, the correspondent that kind of knows the football over there, and he's obviously gave him a good write-up, saying that he can come into a club and kind of turn their fortunes around, something that he's obviously quite good at. So I'm not going to be overconfident getting into it, mate. As I said, I don't know much about him, but obviously we'll give him time as long as we can see a playing style fail, mate, and we can see that we're going forward, then he'll obviously get the backing of the fans.
Now, Wolf, I am not anymore getting excited over managerial appointments. I'm not going to sit here and say that everything in the garden is rosy. Philippe's going to come in and, we're going to start playing like prime Barcelona and we're going to catch up to Celtic. We're going to win the Europa League. How are you feeling? Because I'm fed up with getting excited about manager appointments and then being let down.
I'm certainly not excited by it. I wouldn't have been excited to whoever we brought in to bastardise a saying that was coined on here a few months ago. It's a new ringmaster, but it's the same clowns. So I hope he can get a tune out of the players that he's got. He's got a track record of winning league titles in Europe. That's all we can ask for. He's won 3 Belgian titles, and he won a Belgian title with Ghent when they weren't really anybody. They were sort of just a mid-table kind of team. And then he went to Club Bruges when they were in the doldrums a little bit and pulled them up by the bootstraps, as they say, and got them 2 titles. So hopefully we're a bit in the doldrums. Hopefully he can do that with us. I'm not getting overly excited. As James says, I don't really know that much about him. Been reading up on what he does, been listening to what he says. He talks a good game. But then if I'd just been given a high-profile manager's job like that, I'd be talking a good game. So, obviously we've got to give him a chance. Just listening to his Sky Sports news interview, which I don't suppose you've heard because you're just in from work and you didn't catch anything today, by your own admission. He says there will be bumps in the road. We have to accept there'll be bumps in the road. Hopefully they're not major bumps, and we'll have to. For example, if Hibs take the lead on Saturday, Ibrox can't turn toxic because that will just do the man no favours at all. We'll have to get behind them.
Yeah, we do. 100% we do, and we will come on to that. And that's something that we spoke about on the breaking news pod. Now, Gallant, right, one of our oldest supporters of the podcast. I'm a little put out, a little disheartened. What's happening, Shaggers and Martin? I mean, he's correct, but I'm not really happy with that, Gallant. But yeah, there was a lot of debating about Clement and Muscat, and of course, after he's appointed, we see Rangers supporters on social media having a bit of a back and forth. Some happy, some not happy. Wolf mentioned it there. We have to give this manager time. I'm not saying give him all the time in the world, but we have to give this manager time. We have to get behind him. And like Wolf says, if one or two things go wrong, we can't turn the place toxic.
Inevitably, things are going to go wrong. It's part and parcel of the new man coming in. Will we get that new manager bounce that everyone talks about? Well, only time will tell on that. He does need to be given time. He's still got to work with the players that wouldn't do the job for Beale for whatever reason that was. Like Will fan James, I don't know a great deal about him. I was in the sort of Muscat and Clement era. Those were the two that sort of appealed more. Janssen would have been good if we could have got him, but he's doing a stellar job over the road over there in Holland with AZ. So those two look the two, but I couldn't choose between them. It wasn't like, I definitely want him or I definitely want him. And again, like you all, I'm not excited by it. It's just, let's see what you can do. And just hopefully in 12 months' time, we're not sitting here having the same conversation about the next one that's coming.
What I did find interesting, Wolf, was he was asked specifically about people who had spoke to him before he came in the door. Now, I did get to hear a wee bit of this because I listened to the Sky Sports, because I think it was about 5 minutes, listened to it on the way home for work, and he said that he spoke to Thomas Buffel and he spoke to other people, but he also spoke to Graham Souness. From what I was led to believe, Souness came in for talks with the club a while ago, and it went a wee bit sour.
Yeah, but it was public knowledge over the weekend. In fact, the end of last week, that Graham Souness was part of the process. I don't know if he was actually sitting in on the interviews. I didn't quite get that vibe, but I think he was involved. They were sort of sounding him as the football voice, if you like. And I think he did, well, going with what Mr. Clement said, that he did speak to Graham Souness. So Souness must have been involved. Whether he's saying, look, whether he was there to say this is what being manager of Rangers entails, because I've been there and I've done it, but you mean Graham Souness was definitely involved in it. Speaking to Thomas Buffel, I can understand why he's done that, because he's worked with the man before. But let's be honest, the eras have completely changed since Tom Buffel was here. I mean, it's football's completely changed. So Rangers as a club and the pressures are still there, but the football and the expectation hasn't changed, but the way the expectations calibrated probably changed, because the fans are let's be honest, Thomas Buffel played for us before social media was a thing. I mean, now that social media is a thing, the pressure's got ridiculous, because everybody's expecting things tomorrow, and people say things on social media that they would never say in public and all that sort of stuff. So the pressure's completely different from that regard. So I understand why he's talked to them, but if he's talking to them about what it's like at Rangers, I don't think he can tell them anything that would be particularly relevant to this particular time. But I don't know who else he's talked to. I mean, he said he spoke to several people. The only two he named was Tom Buffel and Graham Souness. Souness we all knew about, because the club had gone on record as saying Souness was involved in the process. Thomas Buffel makes sense because he's worked with them before. I wouldn't be at all surprised to see Thomas Buffel working with them again, but we'll have to wait and see.
I'm just trying to imagine how that conversation between Graham Souness and Phillip Clement goes. I'm trying to picture that in my head. Is it a case of, do you think, because I did hear him also talk about, the expectations. He's got no illusions that he's under. And in fact, I'm going to completely change my question, because it's just come into my head and I'm that kind of guy. The fact that he has no prior knowledge of Scottish football, the fact, that he's probably never paid that much attention to Scottish football, he's coming in with a fresh set of eyes. Is that a good thing or is that a bad thing?
I've had this kind of argument with a few people who have said, I wanted someone who's got a knowledge of Scottish football and someone who knows the league. Well, then you're choosing from the other 8-9 clubs in the league that have got a Scottish manager or been in the league for a while. So then you're going to St Mirren, you're going to Livingston, you're going to Kilmarnock, which we'd have never seen James again. So we have no choice but to look outside. I mean, there's nobody down in England that you could say has got a knowledge of the Scottish game. Muscat probably would have been the only one with knowledge of the Scottish game, but he was only here for a year. So it's not about who's got knowledge of the game, it's the best man for the job. And hopefully this time They've done the process properly, gone through it, and not listened unusually to the fans, because most fans, not everybody, granted, most people wanted Gio in because of that ex-Rangers link, knowing Scottish football, played here, etc. Most people wanted Beale in. Well, probably 50-50 split on Beale, to be fair, because he was here with Gerrard, knows the league, knows how to win in our league, and they didn't work out too well. So maybe we need a full change of direction. Go from there, and hopefully that's the right thing to do. But only time can tell. As per, I'm happy he's here though.
Good. Right, okay, so this is a phone in 01416287237 if you want to come on to the show, just like Alex in Helensburgh. Alex, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you, Martin. I hope everyone in the panel's also very well. Hi, Wilf, how are you, pal?
I'm fine, Alex, mate, thanks, yeah.
What's your point for the guys?
My apologies for... What's my point? Right, okay. I'll tell you what it is. Yeah, exactly what it says. Welcome to Phillip. Good luck to the guy. Just a couple of wee things I wanted to say to you. Number one, he's been left a pure mess, obviously, by Beale. He's been left with players that were every one of us, not very sure about. Can he do things with the players that we have at the moment? It's a tall order, I think, to be honest with you. Maybe he can get something out of these Belgian Toms. I mean, I love Belgium. I love their beer. Their beer's fantastic. I love their buns, their pastries, you name it. So from that point of view, I love Belgium. Can't go wrong with Belgium. Bruges, beautiful place to go. Second point, as I say, I don't get why did he come to Rangers when he was supposedly being offered loads of money to go to Saudi Arabia. That's just a wee question in my head that's thinking, hang on just a wee second. Glasgow, Saudi Arabia, Rangers. No, you know where I'm coming from. Just wondering what the agenda is with Phillip Clement.
Well,
having said that, I just wish him all the best. Hope it works out. Hope he can turn these players round that are underperforming. Guys that are running about like heedless chickens, like Lammers and all that, and Dessers, they don't know what the hell they're doing. Whether that was Beale's fault or not, I don't know. So let's just settle down, give him our full FULL support, no more negativity from the stands, and let's see what this man can do. Over to you, boys.
Right, well, quite a lot in that, James. I'll come to you on the point about, why did he not back a move to Saudi Arabia? And he also spoke about, one or two other clubs. I think that there was concrete offers on the table. For me, James, that's a positive. He talks about the project that he's going to have here. He talks about what he wants to do here, where he wants to take the club, which says to me, James, that it's a job that he wants, and it's not just one of them, I'll just take Rangers because I've nothing else.
No, I think it's good as well, mate, because obviously he could earn a fortune going to other places for me, but I think the man said that himself that he loves the pressure. He loves the pressure of aiming a top job. He could go to Saudi Arabia, mate, but the pressure's not going to be there for him. I don't think the winning appetite would have been there for him. I think coming to a club like Rangers, speaking to guys like Graham Souness, who are probably, for me, I would have Graham Souness involved at Ibrox somewhere, doing a job for us. But for me, it's obviously about that, putting the pressure on himself and want to win things and want to make a name for himself. And he's going to do that with Rangers. We're obviously doing in the doldrums now, and if he can get his winning again, it's good for everybody. It gets his CV back up, and it gets us back winning things. So for me, I think it's...
Did I freeze there? Have I completely frozen? Oh, I'm back. Sorry, folks, my internet dipped. There's a few people commenting on my face, by the way. I took an allergic reaction in work. That's why my face is looking awfully rosy. I'll take Alex's first point to you then, Wolf. Can he get a tune out of the players that are currently at the club? And by the way, Alex, thanks very much for your call. By the way, the calls are flying in, so I'll just take this point to Wolf. And as ever, mate, thank you very, very much for calling in. I appreciate it.
Yeah, Martin, he obviously believes that he can. because he's you know, he says he's watched the games from this season in the last few days. If he's watched those games and still took the job, you know, he's a bigger man than me, to be honest. But he obviously thinks he can do something. I mean, as somebody said in the comments, he's called Rangers a proper club. Something that stuck out for me in what he said as one of the reasons he took the job was the support. He said in his previous job he didn't have the crowds because he was at Monaco, and Monaco's a big club, but they've got no support because of where they are. You know, and he likes the fact he's got support. I'm not overly taken by the word project because we can't afford the project to be a project because of the situation that we're in. But I know what he meant by that, because we obviously have to remember that English isn't his first language. So, you know, I know what he was trying to say there. They're not going to Saudi thing. By his own admission, he's a football man. He's still a relatively young football man. So he's obviously, you know, he wants to prove things. Because you go to Saudi, you make shed loads of money, but there's no challenge, there's no pressure. He says he likes the pressure. He loves having the crowds there. He'll get that at Rangers. You won't get that in Saudi Arabia. He said he's had a couple of other offers as well, but he knows what Rangers are. He's a football man. Anybody that's a football man anywhere in the world, but certainly anywhere in Europe, knows what Rangers are, knows how big Rangers are, knows how big Rangers can be, and he obviously thinks he can get us back to that. And he must think he can get tune out these players, otherwise he wouldn't have taken the job in the first place.
Absolutely. Can I just say to everybody watching, by the way, obviously like and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. But we are now on Twitch. Now, we don't have a lot of subscribers on Twitch, obviously, because we've just started. I know Twitch is quite a hard platform to move in, but we've got my first ever comment for Twitch. So I'm going to bring that up. Hello, Outlaw Gaming. Thank you very much. I'm happy we have Clement. He won league titles and managed in the Champions League. I believe he got a 2-2 against Real Madrid. We'll come back to that in a wee second, but we do have another phone call. Remember, 01416287237 if you want to get your phone calls in. We have Chris in Dunfermline. Chris, hello.
How you doing, Martin?
I'm very well, Chris. How are you?
Oh, not bad. First and foremost, I want to give our new manager the best, because we're all here for one thing, is to see us winning trophies, put a winning team on the park, which we all want. So my question is not about the new manager, it's the board. Because if you look at the last 4 managers, the reason why they're no longer there is because they came second best to across the city. Because mostly they came second best because every time we came up against them, we've been beat. Most of the way we've been beat is because they've had better players. And I'm honestly, man, I just can't see that changing. I think by quality up, I wish the guy the best. I really want him to succeed. But if you look at the last 4 managers, the reason why they're no longer there is because across the city, they've got 4 championships in the bag. That's the bottom line in Glasgow. You're first or you're last. I was just wanting to get Wolf's opinion on that. If he fails, when are the fans and you guys are going to look at the board?
Right, well, we've got quite a bad line for Chris there, but I managed to pick up pretty much what you were saying. I was going to take it to Ian, but the caller dictates who the question goes to, and he wants it to go to Wilf. We all agree that second is last, not just in Glasgow, in Scotland. And, you know, time is up for being second best, but Chris says that he doesn't see that changing. If you look at the work that they do at the other side of the city, the money that they spend, they outspend us. They seem to get it right with their manager appointments, and Chris doesn't see that changing.
They outspend us because they've taken advantage of the fact that we've dragged the European coefficient up. We've let it slip. We've let them into the Champions League. They've got all the money. While we were coming back from our financial problems, they had a couple of decent transfers which made other clubs look at them and say, look, we can sign players from them and flip. You know, like for example, they sold Van Dijk to Southampton for, I don't know, what, £15 million or something. Southampton got 80 million off Liverpool for him clubs look at that and go, well, we can buy this guy from Celtic for a lot of cash and sell him to somebody else for a lot more cash. They've got the history of that. We don't. We're playing catch up on that. Right? Caller's completely right on that. They can outspend us. But look at the last game against them at Ibrox, right? They weren't the better players. They weren't the better side than us. We got the tactics wrong. The manager got that completely wrong. He set up completely wrong. He set up to sit in against them. If we'd attacked them, we'd have absolutely annihilated them, I think. So I don't think they're particularly a better team than us just now, player for player. They've got one or two decent players, but I don't. But if we're set up properly, and I believe that Mr. Clement can set us up properly, I don't think they're anything to fear, because they will drop points. They're not as good as everybody portrays them to be, and they will. I mean, they're not even happy with their manager. I mean, they're 7 points clear at the top of the league, and they're just waiting for them to slip so they can all start throwing sharks at their manager again. You know what I mean? That's just it's a matter of fact. So if we can put pressure on them, they'll fold like a pack of cards.
Well, I mean, let's certainly hope so, Chris. Thank you so much for the call. It was a really bad line there. It was difficult to hear you, but you always phone in, my friend. So please do phone back. Appreciate that. I'll take that same point to you. I was going to come to you on that point. The board need to back the manager. And actually, we've got another comment in for Twitch. B. Ritchie, can you see the new boss getting money in the new year? I don't think it's a case of can we see the new gaffer? Can we see Mr. Clement getting money in the new year? Albeit a difficult window, he has to.
Well, yeah, if he's been watching all the games over the last couple of weeks to sort of get in touch with what he has to work with and what he may well need going forward as a club, then hopefully he's seen what he needs to improve. And surely you're not going to come to a club and say, right, I'm going to want to bring some players in, and the club say, well, no, we're not doing that. You're not going to come to that. So he's obviously been given some assurances that he's going to get the support to do what he needs to do to make us more successful. I do like the fact, though, if you actually look at the clip he's watching on the plane, I think it's against Motherwell. The ball's going forward and Dessers is offside. So hopefully that's one thing he can sort out. He has worked with him before, apparently, so fingers crossed he can get a tune out of him. He's got to work with what he's got until January, so hopefully he can get a tune out of them, and then come January, hopefully the board have given him some sort of assurances that he will get some money. It may involve players leaving as well that need to go to bring some funds in, but hopefully he does get money in the January window as well as the summer. Because, like Chris said, like first is first, and second is nowhere in Scotland. So we need to do something to change that.
Can I just say big hello to everybody watching? Thank you very much. 0141 628 7237. If you want to get on the show, it's a phone in, so we need your calls to keep it going. We're happy to sit here and talk about the new manager for an hour, but it's going to get very repetitive. So we want your thoughts. 0141 628 7237. You'll get straight through to our beautiful producer, Roberta, in the background, smiling away, basically licking the camera, if I'm being brutally honest with you. If you could see his face right now, he's absolutely licking the camera. The comments are coming in thick and fast. I did have one there, but I have completely lost it. So, James, while I'm looking for that comment, I'll take the same point to you. January is probably the most difficult window of the two, obviously, to get players in. If you want to get a player in who's doing well, it's going to cost you a fortune. You don't want to bring in a player who's out of form in January. So if we're looking at this squad, Ian mentioned it there, the manager's been looking through, I think he said he's watched all the games this season already. So what's the manager's takeaway from what he's seen so far? Do you think he's thinking, oh no, what have I got to work with? Or do you think he's thinking, that's quite difficult to say twice in a row, by the way, no, I've got enough here. I've got enough.
I think he'll know himself that he needs to strengthen this team, mate. He's got to get better players in for me. And I think it's out in the wide positions as well. We're obviously needing wingers in this team to start creating chances. But more importantly, mate, we're needing a goal scorer. I know goal scorers cost a hell of a lot of money, but the guy must know in himself that he comes across as a confident guy, and I think he knows himself that what he needs to bring in. And obviously he can bring his knowledge of the Belgian game in. There might be a couple of stars out there, you know what I mean? We never know what this guy's looking at. And for me, all I keep hearing is that we're skint and we've got no money. We only spent £3 million on a net spend this in the summer for me. So there is money still available. And I don't think a guy like this is going to come in if he's not been promised funds to rebuild this team. Because he's not just going to, as we talked about, he had a chance to go and live it up in the sunshine. But he's decided to come here, and he's not going to just come here, I need bother, I've got £3 million to spend in the summer or whatever it is. I think he has been promised some serious dough, mate, to come in to change this team a bit.
Well, as Gallant Pioneer says, look, man management is apparently one of Clement's strengths, and I'm going to come on to what do you think he'll change. The first thing, one of the first things he'll change when he comes in the door. But we have Andrew in Fraserburgh on the phone. Andrew, how are you? Andrew?
Not bad, Martin, not bad. How you doing, you and the rest of the panel tonight?
I'm having a mare.
How are you?
But apart from that, not too bad. Have you got the show on in the back? Have you got the show on in the background, Andrew?
But, yes, but the sound is down.
All right, okay, no, that's fine. That's fine. What's your point for the guys?
Okay, yeah, I think in fairness, the chap from Dunfermline, I thought he was a wee bit harsh on the board, because I think there's bigger boards than Rangers. You guys got it wrong with managers, and I'm sure all of us agree that, you know, Van Bronckhorst and Beale after him, Steven Gerrard, everybody was probably buying into that and behind that. The only real turkey we had was that blooming Cacinha. He was frankly a donkey. But we were straight up with that deal. We were sold a pup, so there you go. But I want to get behind Clement, and as your colleagues were saying, let's see if he got a few tricks up his sleeve with some of the people we've got, and possibly bring in some faces from the continent as well at a cheap price. Who knows? You know, we can do it. I'm sure we can. So just what's your take on Clement? And I'm sure you're all enthusiastic like me about Saturday's game.
I'll go to the most enthusiastic person on the panel, Ian. You know, I think Andrew's right. I think we're all just guarded, though, about getting too, you know, overexcited about the situation. But I'm more buzzing for Saturday than what I was yesterday. I don't know about yourself, Ian.
Definitely. I mean, I made a comment on the previous pod that this game was earmarked for me to come up and take it in, and I refused to come back up while Bill was in charge and decided not to, and now it's all changed, and I wish I hadn't have done that and stuck to my plans, and now it's coming up, but now I can't afford to, so I'll just have to wait a little bit longer. I completely agree. It's not easy appointing a new manager. We have got to get behind him. Every managerial appointment's a gamble, doesn't matter who it is. Even unless we bring Pep up here, and even then I think it would be a gamble, because you know, people would still say they don't want him because he doesn't know enough about Scottish football. But definitely got to get behind him. Looking a lot more to the Saturday than I was a couple of weeks ago. I think it is quite eerie that it's Hibs again. When Gerrard left, we had Hibs when Gio was in the crowd. And then when Gio left, we had Hibs when Beale took over, and there's them again. So next season, I'm looking at the fixtures really quickly. And if we've got Hibs again this time of the year, I'm going to just turn everything off, lock doors and windows, and pretend this month doesn't exist.
That's fair enough. Andrew, can you understand why there's a little bit of trepidation within supporters about the new appointment?
I would be surprised with as much trepidation. I think there's a lot of enthusiasm out there from the I've spoken to up here in the northeast, but he's got to get a chance. The good thing is Dessers, like Clement, they're both Belgians, so I'm hoping he could get that boy in the wavelength he has to be and get him to scoring blooming goals. That's what we want to see.
Oh, Andrew, that is absolutely what we need to see. Listen, Andrew, thank you so much for the call. My producer is telling me that we have the phones are going to be a bit mad in the back. So thank you so much for your phone call. Before I forget, James, I have to ask about a director of football. We mentioned Graham Souness earlier. It's been spoke about quite a lot. I now see the chat going on in our chat, hence why I'm going to ask. And I think I also asked this in the Breaking News pod as well. Is it now for a director of football? Is that what the board do now? Did they turn their attention straight to that? And if so, is Graham Souness in that conversation?
I think it needs to be a director of football who to come in and work alongside Clement. But for me, as much as I love Graham Souness, and I think I just don't think a director of football job's made for Graham. No, I'd love him to be involved in some way with Rangers, but no as a director of football, mate. I just think it's a bit, I don't know, it'd just be giving him a job, mate, for sentiment. But for me, it's got to be somebody that knows Clement, mate, and the two of them can also bounce off each other.
What word was that? What did you use there? What was that?
Sentiment.
I thought you were trying to say sentimental. You didn't say it properly. There we go. Well, you were about to jump in there, so I'll just let you go.
I was, because can't be Graham Souness, but I mean, like James, I love Graham Souness, but he's too old for the job now. We need a director of football who can be there for a number of years. And at 70, Graham Souness, quite frankly, doesn't need the hassle. So get him involved. They've obviously involved him in the recruitment process. That's great. They should. I mean, I don't know if they did involve guys like Alec McLeish, but they should be involving guys like that in the process as well. Guys that know what it's like. But for director of football, we need somebody that knows football, that's considerably younger than Graham Souness. I disagree with James. I don't think he particularly has to know Phillip Clement, because if, say for example, he wins as a treble, as outlandish as that may sound, and then he gets headhunted in the summer, the director of football's got to replace him, and you don't want the director of football going with him because he's his mate. That's how the model's supposed to work. I mean, I'd like to think that we were on the verge of getting a director of football when they had to take action with Michael Beale, and then they've had to put that in the back burner to get a manager in. So hopefully the director of football's not too far away. If he knows Phillip Clement, great, all the better, because he knows him, the passive cross. If he's his pal, I'd be worried. But as to the Graham Souness thing, to me, it's got to be a younger man than that, just because we're looking for the director of football to put stuff in place to last 5, maybe 10 years. Whether he stays that long's a different story, but I mean, Souness, quite frankly, doesn't need the hassle at the age he's at.
01416287237. Get your calls in now. The producer's face has changed from happy to sad. I think a few calls came in there and got cut off, and nobody's phoned back in since. So 01416287237. Get your phone calls in now. Right, Ian, I had about 3 questions in my head there, because I like to try and stay 3 questions ahead, right? But there's just been a question put in, and it's totally thrown all the other questions out of my head. So I'm going to ask it. I'm going to preface it by saying I don't particularly care, right? But I'm going to ask you anyway. Over on Twitch, Carmath M1, will he change the captain? Will he change the captain? Does it matter?
I'm sitting in the boat that the role of the captain isn't the role a captain used to be when it was Goff and Butcher and all those guys. It's different now. I don't think he'll change the captain in the short term. I think you'll see Tav will remain as captain, unless he's got plans. But I think you'll see Tav remain as captain until the summer, and then a choice will be made. Always puts me off when you do that. So yeah, I don't think in the short term that anything's going to change in that significantly, because he's got to weigh up who he thinks are the people with the mentality to be the captain of the club. It's not about just, right, I need to change the captain because people want it changed. It needs to be the right captain for the right reasons. It's the focal point. There are more than one captain on the team. We know that Butland's a captain material. A lot of people in the chat are saying that Cantwell has got it to be captain of Rangers. A few people, Gallant, saying that he'll put Raskin because he's Belgian. But in the short term, I think it'll be Tav until the summer, unless Tav throws his toys at the pram about something. But I think you'll see it be him till the summer, and then he'll make a decision.
I mean, I tend to agree. By the way, 01416287237. Please get your phone calls in and put a smile on our producer's face, please. Thank you, please. He did speak in his interview, James, about, you know, he was talking, you know, overall, but he was talking about changes, changing his getting his philosophy across to the players. And I also think he has been told about what's going on. He has been informed about how unhappy the fans are, how close to breaking point we were. And I think he's let us know subtly that there's not going to be drastic changes. He's not going to sweep changes across the board. That's surely his little subtle way of saying, look, the starting lineup against Hibs, the way we're going to go forward for the first 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks, there's not going to be much change.
No, and after, as you rightly said, mate, he said that there will be changes, but it'll come over the weeks and months ahead now. And I think obviously if he's going to come in and change the captaincy, mate, it would be a massive statement for him. But I agree with Ian. I don't think he will make that. That will probably come at the end of the season. But it'll be the wee changes, mate, that I hope that we'll hopefully see for me and the formation and the way that we're actually going and getting after teams now, instead of this sitting back and passing a ball to death now. Actually go at teams. That's what we want to see as all fans. And as long as we can see that happening, then the guy will get the backing.
Oh, listen, 100%, absolutely. Right, I don't know why I talk about this, Wolf, right? Because number one, I haven't seen or heard it. Number two, I know it involves a certain pundit that we don't like talking about, right? I think you all know where I'm going with this. But fantastic, Mr. Fox. Seen Campbell's interview today was pretty good. I haven't seen the interview. I got a 10-second snippet. You were talking about it before we started. We've seen this before from Todd, from a few other players coming out and speaking about, you know, their time in the club and one or two other issues, etc. What's your thoughts behind it?
I haven't seen it either. I've only know what the comments I've seen from other people. I haven't actually watched it. As I said before we came live, Todd Campbell's not really in a position to be slagging anybody off until he starts winning things at Rangers. And why people involved at Rangers continue to give this specific pundit the time of day and give him airtime and give him what he wants, because basically they're feeding his ego, which is exactly what he wants. I don't know why they continue to do it. He's basically getting what he wants. He's baiting people and they're reacting to it. And the pundit concerns to me is an irrelevance, and we shouldn't really be even giving them the time of day. But I haven't seen the interview, so I don't know what he actually said.
Yeah, no, which is why, Ian, you know, I don't like bringing it up, because I'll be the first one to say, you know, that man doesn't deserve any airtime, especially on a Rangers podcast, which is really hypocritical because he's getting what he wants. We're talking about it right now. But I think Wolf's right. I think at least for the foreseeable, we're talking on the pitch. We don't, I mean, there's obviously going to be other supporters going, oh, Rangers Daz complaining about a player coming out and having a bit of a laugh and a bit of a joke. But, you know, keep your powder dry until we start winning.
Yeah, but he's been invited onto a podcast which isn't a Rangers-related podcast. It's a podcast that goes out on YouTube and other platforms, no doubt. And he's been asked a question. We only get the answer. That's the only bit we get to see. We get to see little snippets on Twitter. I'm not calling it X, I refuse. That people are putting out there for that very reason, to start this thing. So the lad's been asked a question. Same way Raskin was asked a question recently about where he sees himself going and what's Rangers to him, and him saying it's a sort of a stepping stone to his next bit. They're going to answer the question, because otherwise they're not going to be put on these podcasts and want the rest of it. I get it that he should maybe in some way sort of bluff through the question and not give him the time of day. But it was nice to actually see him stand up to it, because not many do. Many just go quiet and say nothing and let him have his way. So it was nice to actually see him stand up, and I think it's more to do with the fact that they both come from the same footballing club before heading up this way. That the fact that he was saying that, you know, you're an amazing player, that you've got a bright future, and then once he signed for us, that completely changed, and that's the point he was bringing out. And I was glad to see him stand up to it, to be perfectly honest. But there is, now I can get the argument that, you know, at this point in time with the club going through what we're going through, maybe we should just shut up and sit back. But I'm just glad he came out and said something, and it's getting other people to see what this idiot's like, and that's what we need.
Well, I mean, it does go to prove that his punditry is based on bias. There's a lot of, you know, not a lot, but, you know, a few people give Alan McCoy stick for being a wee bit too neutral, and his punditry not being too kind of too biased towards Rangers. Their job is to say what they see. Their job isn't to have an agenda. But it appears that is the way that some of them like to go. Well,
yeah,
I can
Mark,
see
sorry.
itching to come back in.
Yeah, I am, because I don't particularly want to talk about him, as I said. But see, if you listen to his punditry, this specific pundits, I'm not even going to name him. If you listen to his punditry when he's covering English football, he's actually quite balanced and he doesn't have an agenda. It's obvious that he sort of knows what he's talking about. As soon as he crosses that border at Berwick, it all changes. It completely changes, and he's only worried about the wee brown poke he gets from the club at the east end of the city, because he does their bidding for them without any question. So he's a charlatan. He shouldn't be entertained up here at all. But for some reason, media companies up here entertain him. I've got no idea why. Because
they need the controversy. It's the same across the whole of media. Hence why podcasts have become popular. Because 9 times out of 10, you know, we have our blue tinted specs, James. You know, of course we do. We'll maybe see a decision one way and it's the other. But we're Rangers supporters, so we have our blue tinted specs. But our agenda is clear. We want Rangers to do well, and we'll talk about Rangers in the most positive way we can. If we have to be negative, then we be negative. But that's for me why podcasts, regardless of what team you support, that's why they work.
I know, 100%, mate. Obviously, this guy, he should never have a job, mate, in punditry for me. No, after what he said about Dunfermline lying down to somebody. Do you know what I mean? That's just, why are people employing this person? That's probably the nicest thing I can say about him.
But James, sorry to cut across you, but as you pointed out before we went live, that wasn't this version of this person. That was the old co of this person.
Yes, it was the old co. You know what I mean? So if that mob want to claim that we're a new club because we went bankrupt, then surely this one shouldn't be allowed to comment because he's not played football. However, for me, I loved Todd Cantwell's comment today, and it just made me fall in love with the wee man even more now, because he came out and he's put the guy in his place. He was asked the question, why is he went in on you? And he says, well, it wasn't that. He says, when I was sitting down and speaking to him while I was at Norwich, and he was praising me, as Ian said, talking him up and saying he was one of the best young players he'd ever seen on a ball. And then Todd Cantwell said, as soon as I signed for Rangers, everything changed, and he came in on me. He said, so for me, well done to the wee man.
Yes, and we have another Andrew, by the way. We seem to get the same names quite a lot of the time, but we've got Andrew in Glasgow, who I believe, Andrew, you want to talk about Clement's preferred formation. Andrew.
Yes, I do. How you doing, guys?
Yeah, not bad, my friend. How are you?
Hi, how you doing?
All good.
Hi,
all good.
It's just, how you doing, guys? I just want to know, Clement likes to play a 4-4-2. So I'm just kind of curious where Cantwell would fit in this, in your opinion. Is he a midfielder, or would he go as one of the front two?
A 4-4-2. Well, I cannot for the life of me see Mr. Clement coming in and playing a 4-4-2 at Rangers. But for talking's sake, if he was, where does Todd Cantwell fit in?
I've heard other people saying that 4-4-2. He likes playing 4-4-2. I'm not really a tactical guy, but I can't see him playing 4-4-2 with the players that we've got at our disposal. If he's playing a 4-4-2, Todd Cantwell has to play in the middle, has to play in midfield, because you have to have two strikers up front, 2 goal scorers up front, which would be probably Danilo and a another. Don't know who the another would be at the moment, but I mean, Dessers, if you can get a tune out of him. But no, I don't. 4-4-2 for me is the Rangers formation, because it was back when I were a lad. But I think with what he's got, he's going whether he likes it or not, he's going to have to go 4-3-3 or some variation thereof, or 3-5-2 or some. He's going to have to do something outlandish. 4-4-2 is not going to work with the players that we've got. So if he does do that, Todd Cantwell, if he's fit, has to play. So he'd have to play in the middle of the park, which isn't the best place for him.
I'm stuck on mute. Andrew's stuck on mute. Andrew, what is your thoughts then about
I'm
the new
still
manager? What's your thoughts, Andrew, about the new manager?
I'm quite. I was, but I'm happy. Do you know what I mean? You just need to. It's better than Lampard, so.
Well, that is very, very true, Andrew. Thank you so much for your phone call. Please do phone in again. That was actually something I did mean to mention. And by the way, we've got time for maybe another 2 or 3 phone calls. So 01416287237. I can absolutely see our producer in the back having a pure panic attack because the calls that are coming through are on a slight delay, and it would appear that it's our producer's internet that is causing that slight delay. And he's nodding away in the background. James, I'm trying not to get too ahead of myself, get too hyper, get too over emotional, and get too excited about the new manager coming in. But I'm gonna at some point. But how good is it, I suppose, in a way that we've got a manager who's got a history of winning things? If you look at our previous 2 or 3 managers who came in, they were 100% project managers. We've actually got a manager in the door now who has a track record of winning titles.
No, it's good to have that now. He'll bring that winning mentality for me, and I think that'll play into his man management skills now, but getting into people's heads and hopefully getting in and about them, mate, and telling them that they are proper footballers and they better start getting their fingers out their backside or they will not be here next year. So that for me is a great thing, a great thing to have in a manager. He knows what it takes to get early finishing line, unlike some of these people that we've got in this squad. And just hopefully, mate, he's going to come in and turn this round. And I'm a bit like yourself, mate. Well, in a couple of weeks' time, mate, I'll be on here raving about the guy. But very much just want to keep my feet in the ground now, mate. Well, so.
Well, I'm only 5'7", so it's easy for me to stay close to the ground. Where's that comment gone, Wilf? Where has that comment gone, Figure Allen? This is the point, that we now have a manager who's won 3 consecutive titles with 2 different clubs. I suppose any manager, can have 1 good season, 2 good seasons maybe, but you've got to be a proper manager to win 3 consecutive titles with 2 different clubs.
Yeah, particularly when you consider that the first one he won was with a very unfashionable club in Holland. I mean, he won it with Ghent. I mean, Ghent were a kind of mid-table team. They were I don't know what, a Motherwell St Mirren type, if to give it a Scottish analogy. And he won them the league, and then he left them and he went to Club Bruges, who are traditionally one of the bigger, more successful clubs in the Belgian league. But they were going through a tough time, and he got them 2 league titles in a row. And then obviously he was poached by Monaco, and he got Monaco from I think 9th in the league up to 3rd. And then I don't think the next season didn't go particularly too well for him. But I mean, yeah, he's obviously, as you say, it takes something to win a league. The hardest thing to say after winning it's retaining it. We found that. I mean, we won the league under Gerrard and couldn't retain it. The hardest thing to do is retain it. And he won a league with Genk. He then won a league with Club Bruges. He then retained it with Club Bruges. So he obviously knows how to win titles, which, to be honest, is the thing that swung it for me when people were saying, who do you want of the candidates mentioned? That's the one thing that I focused on to say, well, of the guys that are quoted, it's got to be Phillip Clement, because he knows how to win league titles, and he knows how to win league titles in the European league that's potentially on a par with ours. It's got two or three clubs that would, generally speaking, win most of the trophies, and then everybody else, which is more or less what Scotland's got.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would agree with that. Question from the Bluebells or Blue Channel member, Ian. Now, I've tried to have a quick think, but my mind's went absolutely blank. This could be a really obvious answer, but who's the last manager we had that won a league title in another country?
Oh, that's a tough one. Thinking back, thinking as far back as I can go. I want to say I can only think Dick Advocat, possibly.
Is that sure not the last? Well, we don't have that many managers, although we have had a few in the last 4 years. Right enough,
Yeah, the worrying thing is with 19 managers, but I think at least 7 of them have come since 2012. So, as far as I mean, most of the managers like we had Walter Smith, and when Walter Smith left, we had Advocat, Paul Le Guen.
Gio.
Oh yeah, Gio won more final, didn't he?
It's
Yeah.
so bad that I couldn't remember that.
Oh, I think it's because we were scarred by Gio and what happened. Even though we did do near enough the greatest moment in my lifetime in the UEL, just didn't quite manage it. But yeah,
should I tell everybody watching, everybody in the chat, what our producer messaged me?
Let me have a look first.
Shall I tell everybody when I asked that question and none of us could get the answer? Shall I tell everybody?
Yeah.
Well, should I tell everybody what the producer said? This won't get the podcast banned. It won't get the podcast banned, will it? If I tell everybody what the producer said,
it'll get clipped and memed again. But hey, we're used to that now. Yeah,
we're used to getting clipped up and memed, aren't we? Hey, well, the producer said to me in a private message when we were looking at that, this is like watching your maw get pumped and having to stay in the room with your eyes open.
I'd like to know how the producer knows what that's like.
So would
that is a fair point.
That's enough to make your cheeks go rosy. That he's absolutely raging. 0141 628 7237. If you can't work out already, we are kind of running out of things to talk about. Oh, he meant because of his internet. I see. My apologies. Yeah, we're struggling here for a wee bit of content, and I'm going to go into Nico Raskin. But 0141 628 7237. We've got time for maybe 2 more phone calls, so please do get your phone calls in. Well, Nico Raskin during the international break done an interview where and I haven't seen the interview, so I'm only taking this from second-hand knowledge. He's phrased cap off and everything. Where he said that he's effectively using Rangers as a stepping stone to go on to bigger and better things in terms of money and league status, etc. Now, a lot of these times, these interviews do get taken out of context because it's getting translated from a different language, etc. I'll be honest with you, that doesn't bother me. But what I would say is that if he wants that to happen, the performances need to start getting better.
Yeah, of course they do. I mean, it shouldn't be a surprise to anyone. He's a young player come from a foreign country, and let's be honest, right? Everybody that's young and talented that comes to any club in Scotland, right? Their main aim is to end up south of the border because we've got the biggest European cash cow there is just over the border from us. So they all want to end up down there, and you can't blame them for it. It's a short career. Thanks, mate. It's a short career. They need to make the money when they can. But you're right. For Nico Raskin or anybody else in our squad to go into better things, I won't say bigger things because you won't get bigger than Rangers. You'll get bigger leagues than Rangers, but you won't get bigger clubs than Rangers for any of these players. They have to perform. So if his ambition is to end up in the English Premier League, he's going to have to up his game, and that can only be good for us. And as Ian said earlier, we don't hear the question; they get asked a question and they answer the question. And as you rightly pointed out, it's all translated probably out of context. People just pick up on little bits of it. But I'd be very, very surprised if players like Nico Raskin come to Rangers. Let's be honest, he's not grown up running about the Rangers top, running about Belgium with the Rangers top, Not like these guys that all sign for Celtic or run about in Celtic tops in the middle of the Ivory Coast and places like that. You know what I mean? So he's come here to further his career and end up going on to a better league. That's what I'm okay with that. Yeah,
my phone has went non-stop by the way since I said what our producer had said. Ian Garland, again, I don't like the words Raskin used. Rangers is just a stage. I think we have to remember, again, this has all been interpreted. This has been changed from his language. But is it Flemish? Or is it French Raskin speaks? I'm not sure. But it's been translated in English. So you're always going to get it always sounds a lot more harsh than what it is basically what I'm trying to say.
Generally, yeah, but we have to accept that, like Will said, Scotland is kind of a stepping stone or a stage, as he says it. They're not coming here to stay here forever. Not these day and age, especially. No one's coming up here to stay forever. We've been through it with all the players that have come through the door. Laudrup leaving, that upset me when I was younger. But again, he did what he did and went to a bigger league to play his football. If he wants to go to Chelsea...
Unfortunately, I'm going to have to stop because we've got a phone call and it's 5 minutes to go. So I'm going to bring in Lewis in Edinburgh. Lewis, how are you? And please don't mention Robert's mum.
I'll definitely not do that. I'm good, mate. I'm good. How's everybody else?
Yeah, not bad, not bad. You want to talk about Rooney looking at Butland? I was trying to avoid that, Lewis, because I don't want to talk about it. But however,
sorry, what was that, Martin? You cut it there, mate.
I'm saying you want to talk about Rooney looking at Butland.
Aye. That and I just wanted your guys' opinion on that, and also who would be injury dependent your preferred 11 for the game at the weekend.
Oh well, that's not actually something that I've thought about. But on Lewis's first point about Rooney looking at Butland, it's no surprise to me that clubs out there will be looking at Jack. He's a phenomenal keeper. He's by far, for me, the best keeper in the league. He's above the Scottish League. He's not above Rangers, but he's above the Scottish League. And it's no surprise to me that clubs are looking at him. And if I'm being honest, Wolf, he's better than Birmingham.
Yeah, I hadn't seen that, but I'm not at all surprised. And as you say, he is better than Birmingham. I mean, he turned down sitting on Man United's bench to come to Rangers for less money, because he obviously wanted to prove himself. I've got no doubt he's only 30 years old, I think. I've got no doubt that Jack Butland's looking at a good season, maybe 2 seasons at Rangers, and then try and get back into the English Premier League, which he won't do with Birmingham City, I wouldn't have thought. And then get back into it, because he must still have aspirations to play for England, because I would say on current form he's probably as good as anything England's got just now, but they're never going to come to Scotland to pick our keeper, particularly not the way we're playing at the moment. But I'm not at all surprised that anybody's looking at Jack Butland. I think he'd be mad to go to Birmingham, because he's as well staying here, because he'll get more limelight here than he will at Birmingham. And if he ultimately does want to get back to the Premier League, and I've got no doubt, it's like a Nico Raskin thing. Nico Raskin came to Rangers to go to the Premiership. We signed Nico Raskin to sell him to the Premiership. That's why we bought him. That's why we bought him in the first place. Like, we've signed Jack Butland, and I've got absolutely no doubt we gave him a 4-year deal. Looking at maybe a year, 2 years down the line, if he's performed the way he's performing, that we'll flip him for a decent amount of money to somebody in the Premier League. So that's just why we're here, and unfortunately, because it's just the way football is these days. And yeah, I'm not surprised teams are looking at him, but I think it'd be absolutely mental to leave Rangers at this particular time.
I tell you what I'm going to do, Lewis. We're going to leave the lineup until Friday, because we're going to come back to the phone in on Friday, and that will certainly be brought up. But what I do want to ask you, Lewis, is if Birmingham or whoever are looking at Jack Butland, how much are we selling him for?
I don't really can, mate, to be honest. It's one of those things. I think the biggest problem, and I think the fact that he's losing goals, is the guys in front of him. And sometimes I think if you actually take away the 4 guys in front of him, we'd actually lose less goals. I don't know, mate. I could see him anywhere in the 10 million range, 20 million range, but again, that's probably daydreaming. It's one of those things, you have no idea on the value of a player.
No, you absolutely don't have any idea on the value of a player. I suppose it's one of those things. And by the way, Lewis, thank you very, very much for the call. Appreciate it, buddy. Make sure you phone back in again. Phone back in on Friday, by the way, and we will certainly discuss the lineup for Saturday's game against Hibs. Just finishing up then, James, on that point about Jack Butland. Lewis is right. It's only what a club's willing to pay. But if I'm Rangers, You know, he's probably our biggest sellable asset right now. I'm looking to get as much as I possibly can. And I don't want to be sitting here, James, talking about, you know, selling one of our best players, but I suppose it's a part of the game.
That's it. But for me, I agree with you, Martin. He's a lot better than Birmingham City, mate. And again, he's not going to leave a club like Man United to come to us to then leave a club that's bigger than Man United. For me, to go back down to England and play in the Championship, mate, he's far better than Birmingham. And for me, he's a good 2 seasons up here, mate, and he will find his sell back down in the Premier League, because he's a fantastic goalkeeper, mate, and he's proven that, and he's proved it in Europe for us.
Yes, absolutely. Right, okay, that'll do it there. We'll be back on Friday for the phone in. Hopefully, with better internet. And I just want to take this opportunity to apologise to everybody watching, to the callers that phoned in. The producer is raging with himself. He knows the mistakes that he's made, and he's going to try and make himself better so these mistakes don't continue.
Martin, he's let himself down. He's let you down. He's let the pod down. He's let the listeners down. But more than that, he's let his ma down.
He has, absolutely has. I couldn't have said it any better myself, Will.
I'm not angry. I'm just disappointed.
Yes, extremely disappointed. But, you know, I hope he takes this time to go away, reflect, and think about what he's done. Anyways, look, folks, thank you very, very much for watching. I appreciate all the support that you give us. We are flying towards 10,000 subscribers on YouTube, which is absolutely phenomenal. So thank you so much for that. If you haven't already, please do subscribe on YouTube, and of course, give the show a like. It helps spread it throughout the old algorithm that is YouTube. Catch us on Twitch as well now. We're also on Facebook, and of course, we're on Twitter as well. All the links are in the description below. So thank you to all our callers. Thank you, Will. Thank you, Ian. Thank you, James. Thank you, everybody who tuned in. Thank you to all our audio listeners who listen back to the show. And we'll speak to you all again Friday night.